Okay. All right, scholars, and we are on to the next section. So we're continuing chapter 11 on counting methods and probability theory. This is section 11.2, permutations. In the previous section, we introduced counting, right? And, right before we did 11.1, we were mentioning how counting will lead us into probability. So this is another counting technique. Let's just see how it evolves. It looks fairly short as well. A few objectives here. 1, use the fundamental counting principle to count permutations. 2, evaluate factorial expressions. 3, use the permutations formula. 4, find the number of permutations of duplicate items. Okay. So permutation is an ordered arrangement of items that occurs when no item is used more than once, and the order of the arrangements makes a difference, right? Right. So the main takeaway with permutations is that the order is important. Okay. So for example, you need to arrange 7 of your favorite books along a small shelf. How many different ways can you arrange the books, assuming that the order of the books makes a difference to you? Okay, so in this case, the order is important. All right, paste. We got 7, paste. Okay. All right. Okay, so say these are the different positions that the 7 books can be on the shelf, right? For that first position, how many books do we have to choose from? Well, we have 7 books to choose from for that first position. Okay, so now we choose one of those books. Now how many books are remaining for the second position? So then we have 6 remaining for the second position. We choose one of the 6. Now how many are remaining for the third? So then it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? So for each choice we have in that first slot, we have 6 of the second, but then for each of those is 5 of the next, but then for each of those is 4, yada, yada, yada. So that means we're going to multiply these results. And what this is what's called, I think, did we talk about this? Factorial. This is 7 factorial, right? And 7 factorial just means take that number times the one before that. I can't think if that was you all or if that was my other team, my other group. Let me think about it. Give me a moment. Did we talk about Pascal's triangle here? I don't think so. Okay. So factorial, right? It just means 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, right? Hey, Google, what's 7 factorial?
The answer is 5,040.
So there are 5,040 different ways that we can arrange these 7 books on the shelf if the order is important, with no repetition. All right, 50/40. So you can choose any one of the 7 books for the first position. This leaves 6 for the second position. After the first 2 positions are filled, there are 5 to choose, and so on and so on. Right, the way we did. They constructed the same way we did. So the product 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 is called 7 factorial and is written as 7 exclamation marks. So definition: if n is a positive integer, the notation n factorial is the product of all positive integers from n down through 1. So n factorial just means n times the integer before that times the integer before that times the integer before that. You keep going until you get to 1. By definition, 0 factorial is 1. All right, so that's by definition for a lot of this to work. 0 factorial is going to be 1. Evaluate without using your calculator. Okay, so we have 8 factorial divided by 5 factorial. Okay, so 8 factorial means what? 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, right? So then 8 factorial means 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, right? If we write 5 all the way down to 1, instead of writing 5 all the way down to 1, we can condense it as 5 factorial, right? I could expand it all the way out, or I can write it condensed. It means the same thing. And I'm going to leave the denominator as is. But again, we're aware that 5 factorial means 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. All right, so then a number divided by itself, this divided by itself cancels. Hey, Google, what's 8 times 7 times 6?
8 times 7 times 6 is 336.
Okay, something similar for B. 26 factorial, 26 times 25 times 24 times 23 times 22 times 21 factorial. I don't know why I wrote it that way. 21 factorial, all right? So instead of going all the way down to 1, we can condense the 21 to 21 factorial, okay? Then a number divided by itself cancels. Hey, Google, what's 26 factorial divided by 21 factorial?
The answer is 7,893,600.
Okay, that was easy. Okay, so this is the result we got there. I just put the whole thing in the calculator, or a calculator. Let's see, we got 336, 7,893,600. You guys ready for, I don't know. I was gonna say, like, are you guys ready for Halloween? I was like, well, do you celebrate Halloween? I know that can be kind of like one of those things. Are we gonna make it to Halloween? It's kind of wild out here. Yeah. I feel like you don't need haunted houses. You just need to be alive, because life kind of feels like a haunted house. It's so trippy. It can be kind of creepy. Anyway, let's keep going. Okay, now I feel the urge to tell a bad story. So brace yourself. It's a bad story. I'm just sharing a story. And it's about Halloween. So like once upon a time, like Six Flags, they would do their Fright Fest or whatever. We went and it was fun. And usually there's this like tunnel that's covered in like vines and stuff like that. It's this green tunnel that you walk through. So they put like a drape over the entrance and the back end, and they filled the tunnel with fog. Like it was so thick, if you held your hands up in front of you, you could not see your hands. So you're walking through this thick fog, like lights are flashing everywhere, and then out of nowhere, you're completely surrounded by zombies. I was like, oh my goodness. It felt so surreal. It was really creepy. It was fun just because it was play, but it really felt like a zombie apocalypse because you could not see anything. Lights were flashing, and then out of nowhere, you're surrounded. And like again, you can't see, but like half a foot in front of you. Like that was really creepy. All right. Another haunted attraction they had was some trail, like how their rides and stuff, the sidewalks kind of go to the woods or whatever. So they created a haunted trail, and you're like walking, you're seeing like fake meat hanging, bloody knives, all this kind of stuff. Eventually, you come to like this bloody butcher. And he's like, "Get out of here! We don't take kind of your attack around here." I was like, "This is the wrong kind of scary. I don't know if I should be afraid or angry." Like, it was. I was confused more than anything in that haunted attraction. I was like, "That's the wrong kind of scary." I was like, "I don't know how I feel about that one, right?" Because it had this racial tone to it. So, random silly stories. I know, right? Exactly. That's the same thing I said. It's like, what in the world? I was like, what is going on here? Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. And that anger and fear seem to be two emotions that I keep flipping between with a lot of the stuff that's going on, because it's easy to fall into this pit of despair and fear and stuff. But then I oftentimes find myself getting to this point, and I was like, I'm fed up with this. Like, I'm sick of this. Like, what makes you think, what gives you the right to think that you can just run all over somebody like that? Like when it's like just people taking advantage of others, that pisses me off. And so it's like, then my gears start clicking, like, what can I do to kind of like right some of this? My mom was like, you just got to let it go. Like, do what you can do, but then you got to accept the things you cannot change and let go of the things that you can't. And, she just is like, don't get bent out of shape about it. So she's always kind of like talking me down, because if it were up to me, man, I'd be like, yo, what do you think you're doing? Like, I get in trouble. But, But again, those I kind of flow between that with like just like attack, just all the stuff that's going on, especially with like the government taking advantage of people. And it's like I'm just biding my time waiting for people to just like put their differences aside and band together to stop all this. Like the only reason this stuff is going on is because we're allowing it, because we won't band together. The people in power have the power because they're better at collaborating. They can put their differences aside to work towards a common goal. We're still divided. We're still distracted, chasing our tail, chasing the bag, instead of like helping our fellow man. Like when I think about the way we treat the homeless people here, but then we can send billions of dollars to Ukraine. Like that's every time I think about that, that's one of those things that just pisses me off. I'm like, yo, like, and it's so trippy. Not to be political or anything, and I still don't know how to feel about Trump. But when Trump was saying all the stuff that he was saying, he seemed like a kook, right? Like a lot of times, oftentimes, truth is stranger than fiction. And then when you are speaking truth, they paint you out to be either like crazy, or they try to like silence you in some way, or they like kill you. They always do some kind of like smear campaign so that people don't pay attention to the truth. And I really feel like that's what happened to Trump. Now, this whole like Proud Boys things and racism, if he was without that energy, I think he would have been fine, right? But because he embraced these people that were like bigoted and stuff like that, and that seems to be, prevalent in his following, then that's the only reason I can't get down with him. But if you go back and listen to a lot of stuff that he was saying, all this stuff was true. From like when oh my goodness, if you ever find out what was in those emails that Hillary deleted, it's really sinister. At least that's the impression that I got. I do remember Trump mentioning something about like space lasers. That's why he was starting Space Force. I thought it was absurd until Hawaii happened, Maui. I was like, oh crap. Then I started seeing like videos. I was like, oh man, he was actually telling the truth. He was, he's always been talking about Biden and Hunter Biden and like the shady deals that they be doing. So it's like that's the only reason like I don't, and I can see why they would target Trump, because he was talking so much truth. They couldn't shut him up, and he was uncontrollable. Even though he has all these battles, he is still pushing through in the primaries. Like I don't know how to feel about it, because again, I can't support racism and bigotry and stuff like that. But he does have this like resilient nature. Like he does not give up. He doesn't stop fighting. Joe can barely stand. President Biden can barely stand. He be falling all the time. Can't speak coherent sentences. So I'm just like, I don't know, that he's clearly stealing. Like allegedly. Let me say this because I do plan to put this on YouTube, but allegedly he's stealing. Like it's like you can do these campaigns to send billions of dollars to Ukraine with your son. You have vested interest in. You can make money off of it, but then you're going to give your own people in Maui $700. You're going to boot the homeless from homeless shelters to house illegal immigrants. Like, come on. Like, that's ridiculous. That's unacceptable. This is unacceptable. Again, not to be political. I'm just trying to state like what has actually been happening, quote unquote, the facts. Right? You can fact check this stuff. You can check it. But just based on my experience and what I've seen, it's unacceptable. Unacceptable. So, anywho, I always have to kind of like try to not think about it so I don't be upset, affecting my day to day. Okay. All right. So the number of possible permutations of R items are taken from R items are taken from N items is going to be given by this, right? So in objects taken R at a time, right? So like for instance, this is like where we had 7 books, and we wanted to take all 7. We're gonna have some other examples that kind of like showcase this a little bit better. But when we have N objects permutated into R different slots, we use this formula, right? Again, factorial just means take that number times the one before that, and you keep going until you get to 1. So we have N objects permutated R at a time. Let's try to pull up an example to articulate this better. So you and 19 of your friends have decided to form a business. The group needs to choose 3 officers, a CEO, an operating manager, and a treasurer. And how many ways can those offices be filled? Okay. And then, like, with the politics, they do a lot of distraction and misdirection. They'll put something in the news, but then they'll ignore other things that are definitely newsworthy. So, like, where we sit up here worrying about Will and Jada's marriage and like crap that don't have nothing to do with the price of tea in China, officials are like passing laws to just keep getting over on people. Like, we're totally distracted. But I feel like all of that's coming to an end. They're doing a lot of this because they know they're losing power. Okay. So we have 19 friends, and we have these three different officers that we're trying to fill. Let me see. We have the CEO, operating manager. Let me do this. Operating manager. And I'm just going to shrink this down to size. Again, not really be political, just me venting a little bit. And then treasurer. And I'm just going to shrink that down to size as well. Okay. Okay. This is the way that I like to do it. But okay. So we have 19 friends, right? So for the CEO, how many options do we have to choose for the CEO? Right? We have 19 choices there. So we choose somebody for the CEO. How many options do we have remaining? Then we have 18, and then we choose somebody there, and then we have 17 remaining, right? So say we choose person. Well, we don't need that just yet, right? So then again, same kind of deal for each of the first. We have that many for the second, so on and so on. So we multiply these. Hey Google, what's 19 times 18 times 17?
19 times 18 times 17 is 5,814.
Okay. If we were to, this is what this is 19 objects permutated across 3 slots. So we want to choose 3 people at a time from the 19 where the order is important, right? And so if we use the permutation formula, which is going to be 19 factorial over 19 minus 3 factorial, this is going to be 19 factorial over 16 factorial. That's going to be 19, 18, 17, 16 factorial over 16 factorial, right? Can you see it now? And then that basically brings us to here, right? So 2 different ways of doing the same thing. The way I did it initially, I think that's like a pigeonhole technique or a buckets. Like, that's the way my professor in grad school kind of would count a lot of these. He would make buckets and then count and then use the appropriate, counting technique or whatever. We had 19 objects taken, permutated 3 at a time, right? And again, permutation means we're arranging them where the order is important, right? Without repetition. Okay, so we got 5814. 20. Oh, UN. Hang on, I didn't count myself. Okay, so this, let me make my changes. This is supposed to be 20, right? I thought 19 was weird. All of these 19s need to be 20. 20. I'm assuming that people are able to get in. I keep hearing people come into my this changes to 17. I'll just rewrite these guys. Yeah, I just totally forgot to count myself. Okay, 20, 19, 18, right? Hey Google, what's 20 times 19 times 18?
20 times 19 times 18 is 6,840.
Okay. Let me see. 20, 19, 18, 17 factorial over 17 factorial. Again, these guys cancel. Then we get this, right? So again, I totally forgot to count myself. Okay. 6840 is fine. Okay. So permutations of duplicate items. The number of permutations of n items where p items are identical and q items are identical, r items are identical, and so on is given by n factorial over p factorial, q factorial, r factorial, so on and so on. Okay. In how many distinct ways can the letters of the word Mississippi be arranged? Okay. Well, how many letters are we working with all together? M-I, humpback, humpback, I, humpback, humpback, I. No. M-I, crooked letter, I, crooked letter, I, humpback, humpback, I. Is that right? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, because crooked letter is definitely not P, right? Anyway, something from my youth, right? We got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Is it 11? 4, 8, 10, 11. Okay. So it looks like we have a total of 11 letters to consider. How many M's? There's only one M, so we're going to say 1 factorial. How many I's? It looks like there's 4 I's, so it's going to be 4 factorial. 4 S's and 2 P's. 8, 10, 11, right? So then we need to do that calculation. Okay. So my calculator, let me see, I can do 11. If I go, I think it's under math, probability, number 4. So 11 factorial divided by 1 factorial is just going to be 1, so I'm going to do 4. Cancel. 4 factorial. Let me try to do it without the symbol. 4 factorial and 2 factorial. Okay, let me see if this works. Okay, we got 34,650. I don't know why I keep wanting to put dollar signs on these numbers. I guess this was about to happen to my bank account. Hey, you got to name it and proclaim it, right? Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it will achieve, right? So the words contain 11 letters, where 4 I's are identical, 4 S's are identical, 2 P's are identical. The number of distinct permutations, yeah, that's fine. Okay, 34,650. Okay, what's the time? We have a solid 30 minutes, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and do the next section. Hopefully it's about the same length as these have been.